Frankish Skirmishers. The most expensive skirmisher unit available for the Franks, and a unit designed almost specifically to be a cavalry killer. Does their presence help the relatively weak roster of the Franks, or are they more of an expensive hindrance than anything else? The Frankish Skirmishers are unique to the Franks and cost 650 talents. They are a medium skirmish unit and are surprisingly tier 1, which means you can train them very early on in your campaign. And they could prove to be a very useful addition in your early game armies due to their incredible cavalry killing potential. These units wield a heavy spear, a melee weapon that is only available to one other unit, the Tagmada cavalry. The heavy spear is a formidable weapon. With a weapon damage of 32, 8 of which is armor piercing, it seems like a bog standard spear weapon on paper. However, while regular spears carry only a 20 bonus versus cavalry, the heavy spear carries a 30 bonus versus cavalry, thereby significantly increasing the melee attack and damage stats of the units that wield it. This extra bonus versus cavalry is necessary for the Frankish Skirmishers because their raw melee attack stat at 7 is very poor. However, add a 30 bonus and at 37 the melee attack doesn't seem too bad at all. The other big threat these units carry are their javelins. These aren't your run-of-the-mill javelins. These are heavy javelins that have 100 missile damage, 50 of which is armor piercing. That's not all. Similar to the precursors thrown by the Equites Promoti, the heavy javelins have a 30 bonus versus cavalry, and the Frankish Skirmishers are the only unit in the game that have access to these javelins as their standard ammunition. Speaking of ammunition, we get into the first big weakness of this unit. An ammunition of 7 volleys is quite low, and despite their excellent missile damage stats, their low ammunition ensures they will almost surely be out of ammunition by mid-game. When you bring these units, you have to be extremely careful not to waste their ammo, as these javelins will wreck enemy infantry as well due to their high armor penetration. All in all, for a price of 650, I would like to see an increase of 1 or 2 volleys given to these units as ammunition. Their second big weakness is their low rate of fire. These units are tied with the Thrall Skirmishers for having the lowest rate of fire in the game. The Thrall Skirmishers, though, cost only 275 talents, less than half of what these units cost. Their low morale is also a concern at 36, which is lower than what you would expect for a unit that costs so much. While these units need to be close to cavalry battles to throw their javelins, you cannot let them engage full-strength cavalry because even with their great spears in melee, they will simply rout from the impact damage caused by a cavalry charge combined with their low morale. The rest of their stats are pretty average, maybe even decent. They have good melee defense at 32, very good armor and health at 28 and 95 respectively, a 20% chance to block missiles, and have access to precision shot, which ups their already deadly missile damage to 150. The Frankish Skirmishers then is a unit that is very similar to an iPad. Yes, it's nice and shiny and very expensive. It does what it does very well, but at the end of the day, everything that it did could have been done just as effectively by something cheaper. This unit seems to fit awkwardly in the Frankish roster and seems more like a luxury unit than something you would need to bring with you all the time. Recommended upgrades? 2 or 3 if you feel like splurging to give them a nice boost to morale and increase their melee attack stats. Although spending close to 700 talents on a single skirmish unit wanders dangerously close into overpriced territory, a scary, desolate place filled with sword hairband, royal Persian archers and one-handed axes. You don't want to go there, it's quite depressing. Recommended role? Cavalry Killers. An effective, if somewhat expensive strategy is to use cheap melee cavalry to hold up more expensive cavalry and sacrifice them as these units pour in the fire and kill everyone in the giant cavalry blob that forms in front of them. Recommended number? 1 to 2. You could put one Frankish skirmisher behind a weaker flank to give you a decisive edge in that side of the cavalry battle, although bringing more than a couple of these units ensures you won't have enough money to spend on the real difference makers in your army. My name is Blade Master. Hope you enjoyed this unit review and stay tuned for more.